doesn't solve, you can go into the chat section of your dashboard and mention something, or even better, going into the question section of the dashboard and mentioning it there. As mentioned before, typically these are member-only presentations, so we do hope that you'll consider a membership with Heritage Ohio and see all the other webinars that we offer throughout the course of the year. We've got one every month, and membership starts at just $25, so it's a great series of webinars and an awfully good price for that. So we do hope you'll consider joining. So please feel free to, you can post questions at any time throughout the webinar, but those won't be answered until the end of the session. But again, feel free to go in there and post those, and we'll address those at the end. That being said, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, we're with Chris Boring. Chris is with Boulevard Strategies, a longtime retail consultant here in Central Ohio, and Chris does a wonderful job in that capacity, and we are happy to have him back again to do the 2014 retail outlook and top 10 trends. So with that, I will turn it over to Chris.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff, and thank you to Heritage Ohio and to Joyce Barrett, and thank you to all of you for joining me as we explored 10 key trends, insights, and observations and musings regarding the retail industry in Central Ohio and beyond. I believe this is our 10th annual top 10 list. The reason I'm not real certain is this list kind of started on a whim, I believe back in '05, where I was asked to be a panelist at a brown bag luncheon for the city of Columbus. It's a very low-key event, and I woke up the morning that I had to do a presentation, so I just kind of sat down and jotted down 10 ideas or 10 trends that I was seeing out there, and presented it that day at lunch, and it really went pretty well. And even though I thought of it as being kind of low-key, what I forgot about was that they were filming the entire session, and ended up being on cable access TV for like the next 3 or 4 months on a continuous cycle. So I decided I needed to maybe start putting a little bit more thought, more time into it. So we start from scratch each year, write all new material. We don't try to cover every trend every year. So if there's something that's missing from this year's list, we may have covered it in a more recent list, like, for instance, social networking. I know that we've done a lot about that in the last couple of years, and probably won't touch too much on that today. Having said that, there are just a few constants. We always start off by looking at the economy, particularly consumer confidence. Then we look at the local retail real estate scene, and look at statistics and major new projects that are coming up. We always do our popular what's hot, what's not zingers, but otherwise it's a pretty open format, and we're just trying to share with you some of the things that we've been seeing, experiencing, and reading about in recent months about what we think is going to happen in 2014. Also, before I go forward, I'd like to make a special thanks to my partner, Deb Miller, who did all the graphics in this presentation. She's just done a wonderful job, and also helped me with some of the writing. So this is a countdown, by the way, so we'll start off with number 10. Number 10, targeted customers. Widespread data breaches threaten to derail economic recovery. As I sit down to start this list back in December, I started off by looking at several economic forecasts. And as I say, you remember the term irrational exuberance by Alan Greenspan back in the '00s to describe the overheating of the economy. This time, it seems to be very rational to be bullish about the economy. Lots of good signs out there. This first one, big ticket uptick. People aren't going to spend money on large items like housing and automobiles unless they're confident in the economy. And those are back at pre-recession levels. Consumer confidence, I mentioned, reached a 6-year high at the end of 2013, and still up around 82. It ended at 81 last year. So consumer confidence is still doing well in spite of some of the news that you hear. Here locally, Dr. Bill Lafayette, local economist, he does a economic forecast every year. He's been doing it since 1999, and this is his best forecast ever. He's predicting a 1.6% increase in jobs in Central Ohio. Nationally, our GDP growth is expected to accelerate for the rest of 2014. We got off to a slow start with all the bad weather, but it's expected to pick up again. And then I thought this just kind of summed it all up. The Pantone color of the year, Radiant Orchid, emanates great joy, love, and health. So it seems like it's a pretty rosy outlook for retailers out there. Well, not so fast. If you're in the real estate aspect of retail, you have some real challenges. In fact, I believe that we have all the retail space that we're ever going to need. It may not all be in exactly the right places, but I'm just talking about the gross amount of retail space, which I don't know what it is for Ohio, but it's about 56 million for Central Ohio. And the problem is that all the retail sales growth is going to the internet. And I put it again here because this happens every year. E-commerce grew at a rate 4 times faster than bricks and mortar retail in 2013. And that's been the same story probably for the last 10 years or so. And some of the small retailers in your downtowns, I think you're used to worrying about the big box stores, but I would say your biggest threat, and it can also be the biggest opportunity out there, is e-commerce nowadays. And just wanted to go through a quick example here. In the category of eyeglasses, a couple of MBA students found out that they can produce the lenses themselves for $5 to $15 a pair. The frames manufactured in China would cost $5 to $30. One company dominates 50% of the eyeglass market in the world. It's a European company, and they own several brands of eyeglasses, including a lot of the designer brands. They're charging $350 per pair of glasses, when it's not costing them any more than maybe anywhere from $10 to $45 to produce. So these guys decided to start selling glasses over the internet for $95 a pair. And the name of the retailer is called Warby Parker. And they've been so successful that now they're starting to open some showrooms. And the reason I bring it up is I think that's the new model. If someone came to me today and wanted to open a retail business, I'm talking about pure retail, not service, not food or anything like that. First thing I would say to them is, what's your e-commerce plan? I think that today you have to look at the internet first, and then if you're successful over the internet, then you go back and open stores. Kind of the opposite of the old model. This next point, ripple effect with Starbucks. You think of Starbucks as being the one retailer that the internet can't impact, because obviously you can't buy a cup of coffee over the internet. But it did have an impact on them last Christmas, because mall traffic was down 15% in U.S. malls. So they actually had sales decreases in their stores. The annual tsunami of store closings. This happens every year. I get these calls from the media every year around January and February of store closings. And I think that this is just going to continue. A lot of these stores are in long-term leases. They would leave the dying malls yesterday if they could, but they had to wait for the leases to run out. So you have Radio Shack closing 1,100 stores, Staples closing 225 stores. And then I saw Walgreens is going to close another 75 stores earlier today. Another thing that's going to hold back the retail aspect of the economy, I believe, is going to be as I kind of mentioned, the data breach, the weak link. The retail industry that has been estimated it's going to cost $8 billion to fix their problems, and they've really balked at spending $8 billion until now, and now they're kind of get serious about it, I think. Another kind of subtext to this issue is that the banks and the retailers have been a bitter fight over what are called swipe fees. Every time you swipe your credit card or your debit card, a certain fee, a certain percentage of that goes to the to MasterCard or Visa or whoever the cardholder is. Those have actually tripled over the last 10 years. And by the way, that's something else that's just killing smaller retailers. So I think that as I put here, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So I think these guys are going to find a way to resolve some of these disputes because they're both hurt by data breaches. So they have an incentive to work together. So the move to chip cards and mobile wallets will accelerate, but it's a question of when and are they going to be able to implement before the next data breach happens? And then there's a whole another set of questions because the hackers never stop. Will they figure out a way to hack these new payment methods? In the short term, though, few customers have actually changed their credit card behavior since the breach happened. Only 37% tried to use cash rather than plastic for purchases. 41% have checked their credit reports. Even fewer have changed their online passwords or requested new credit card or debit cards from the retailer. And I think a part of that is they haven't had to pay the false charges. If the onus was on them, I think there would be a huge shift in consumer behavior. Okay, let's move on here to number 9. Word lines. Hey, you got some suburbia in my Bohemia. It's supposed to be kind of a takeoff of the old Reese's Cup commercials where somebody's walking down the corridor and a jar of peanut butter and they run into somebody eating chocolate. I'm sure some of you are old enough to remember those commercials. Anyway, here in central Ohio, the most suburban of all of our suburbs, I would say is Dublin. They have beautiful golf courses, cul-de-sacs, and shopping centers, and kind of all the things that you associate with suburbia. But the one thing that they've never had is a real downtown. And now they're starting to embrace new urbanism. I think that they're going to end up with a fantastic downtown, but it won't necessarily be organic like a lot of your downtowns are. They're going to be starting pretty much from scratch. They plan to have about 140,000 square feet of office space, hotel rooms, a large convention center, over 1,000 apartments, some high-end restaurants, a natural food grocer, 130 condos, parks, pedestrian bridges, and of course, if you've been to Dublin lately, roundabouts, which I love roundabouts. I was a little leery of them at first, but Dublin's taught me to really like them. So why are they doing all this? Because there's a trend among the millennials, even those that were born in the suburbs, raised in the suburbs, they're moving back to the cities. So they're trying to create a more urban atmosphere to keep some of their younger residents. At the other end of the scale, our own private Bethel Road, Olentangy River Road, becomes a mix of automotive-driven uses that dissect a couple of very bike-friendly neighborhoods. Those being the Short North and Grandview. And I've lived in the Short North, I don't know, for the last 11, 12 years, and I lived in Grandview for 11 or 12 years before then. So I'm pretty familiar with these communities, and I consider myself to be a new urbanist. I believe in the principles, but I got to make a confession. I do own a car, and sometimes I even drive it. And yesterday, I even drove to Olentangy River Road to get gasoline, and I stopped at a big box store, Staples, to pick up office supplies. And after that, I stopped at a Wendy's drive-thru. So I know that makes me a really bad person, but I guess my point is, is that everybody wants to have options, and it doesn't have to be just one or the other. Retail follows rooftops, right? Will retail chains finally react to the nationwide exodus into the city? Here in Columbus, we're actually up to 6,700 residents now. Um, and I think that we're starting to hit critical mass where we're going to see some retail reacting to that. The short north is a chain called Anthropology, kind of a funky chain that's it's a sister to Urban Outfitters. And then, boy, every chain retailer out there, from Walmart on down, are rolling out these express units. And in fact, Walmart's kind of interesting because they're experimenting with several different size stores, and they seem to be taking that. They used to kind of have the attitude that, okay, well, this is our box. It's 200,000 square feet, and if it doesn't fit, well, too bad. We're going to go somewhere else. But they've kind of run out of that low hanging fruit out in the suburbs, and now they want to go into the cities, and they're being forced to compromise a little bit. And instead, instead of trying to jam their prototype into every site, they're looking at the site and saying, well, what kind of store should we put here, instead of the other way around? Okay, I kind of stole this title from the Beatles. Happiness is a warm gun. Gun sales are up 40%. I don't think that's any big secret. So this firearms frenzy has turned Central Ohio into a retail battleground. These are all pretty recent announcements of new stores coming into Central Ohio. So on the left side here, I have got fins, fur, feathers. Apologies to fins, fur, and feathers up there in Ashland, Ohio. But anyway, we now have 220 places in Central Ohio that you can go to buy guns and ammunition. And of course, the big guy on the block would have to be Cabela's. We had Cabela's open, the hunting and fishing Disneyland. They're tapping into a $2 billion a year tourist trade market in Central Ohio. They just opened at the Route 36, 37 exit. Gander Mountain, this is interesting. They took one of their stores and turned it all into guns and ammo. They used to carry quite a broad range of sporting goods merchandise, and they said, well, guns and ammo are the kind of growth and profit that we're getting there, we might as well just do the whole store, guns and ammo. Dick's has come out with a guns and ammo big box kind of answer to Cabela's. Vance is a local, and their big claim to fame is they have an indoor firing range, and they really go after the first timers and folks interested in self-defense. That's about 25% of the gun market. So I think they found their niche there. Paintball Ohio, they've expanded into a new category. I think I've talked about this a little bit before. Survival kits for the preppers, which is a growth industry, of course, until the world ends, and I guess it's not growing anymore. And let's not forget about Walmart. They're still the number one guns and ammo retailer in the United States. So you have a lot of action in that category. Then there's a different company. They're called REI, and they're out of Seattle, and they operate on kind of the opposite philosophy of the ones I just was talking about. Go after a whole different customer. They don't carry any guns, no ammo. Their emphasis is more on camping and hiking and biking, and they do a lot of rentals. They've opened a travel company called REI Adventures. Their sales were up 15%, where they organize tours and travel to exotic places. They also have an outdoor school that offers classes and outings, and that was up 25% last year. They haven't even come into Central Ohio yet. They're getting ready. They're going to open 2 stores this coming year, and they already have 5,000 members. They're a cooperative. They have 840,000 total nationwide. And their preference is they like to co-locate with national foods grocers, such as Whole Foods. That kind of segues into my next point. point here. Stay young, healthy, and beautiful. Visit your local shopping center today. Never thought I'd offer those words, but I recall about in '05 or '06, Whole Foods was looking at opening a second store in Central Ohio. It's a very controversial site. They wanted to open right across the street from the North Market. And I remember at the time, and I did a pretty major report about this. I remember at the time thinking that Whole Foods was just going to be the first of a lot of these natural foods, kind of gourmet grocers that were going to come into our market. Well, I was right, but it didn't happen for about 7 or 8 years. I was wrong about that part. So Whole Foods just announced that they're going to do 800 new stores next year, which is just a tremendous amount for a real high-end retailer like they are. And Easton is going to be one of those. We have some other entrants into the market, such as Fresh Market and Lucky's Market, and excuse me, I meant Fresh Time, Lucky's Market, and Earth Fair. Fresh Time is interesting. They're set up just like a farmer's market. Then we have a couple locals here. Hills Market and North Market is going to expand. I tell you, I just drove by that Hills Market. They need to get a sign. I drove by it before I even knew what it was, or because I probably would have stopped there to get some lunch. Anyway, another thing we're seeing is that seeing a lot of sports and fitness and health uses going into retail centers. Things like fitness gyms, massage therapy, smoothie and yogurt shops, beauty spas, healthy restaurants, yoga, et cetera, et cetera. And as I kind of looked at that list, I used to work on a lot of shopping center repositionings, and boy, these used to be kind of the bottom of the barrel. The tenants that you would only put in if you couldn't find anybody else. But now in today's centers, because they do depend on you being there and experiencing it, as in other words, you can't do this stuff over the internet, right? So it's becoming a popular option, especially for older centers. And a great example would be Dublin Village Center. It's just been the poster child for vacant power centers. I think at one time it was maybe 60-70% vacant, and yet it's on a really good corner. So what they finally have done is they've reinvented themselves, and now they have 2/3 sports training facilities and what were vacant retail spaces. And from what I've heard, it's been a great success because there's so much demand for these types of facilities in Dublin that you had people renting facilities at all odd times of the night and day just because they couldn't get in. So it's alleviated some of that pressure. Something else along the same line, same company that does Redbox for movie rentals. They also do Coinstar, where you can pour your change into a machine and it spits out currency. Their newest thing is going to be called Solo Health Stations. And you'll be able to do some very basic things at these kiosks, like check your blood pressure and that sort of thing. Some basic diagnostics. You've probably been reading a lot about this. I know I have. The next big thing, wearable technologies. I think so far the application that really seems to be working with wearable technologies are those that apply to sports or fitness. However, I've labeled them tech teenagers because you still have to have a smartphone to get these devices to work. I think the next generation is going to bypass that so that you can just go out and buy one of these bands and it'll work on its own without plugging into the smartphone. This company, Fitbits, they have a kind of interesting angle. Their software allows you to network with your friends so that you can kind of like have these contests. who makes the most steps in a day, and that sort of thing. Okay, so it's a lot like Words with Friends, kind of the same idea. Um, then the other thing that we've been hearing a lot about is this Google Glass. I don't think it's quite ready for prime time yet. They still have some work to do with it. For one thing, it just doesn't look cool, and that's a big thing, especially when you're talking about something that you wear. So they need to kind of work on the fashion aspect. Also, here locally in Columbus, somebody wore their Google Glass to the movies, and they got interrogated for 4 hours by the local FBI that thought that this person was recording a movie through their Google Glass device. So there's some legal things we need to work out too. The latest thing I've been reading about is they're working on Google contact lenses. How that would work. Okay. This is something else we do every year. We love the teens. And I've always thought that retail trends reflect the broader popular culture. And one feature that we just about always talk about, because it just seems to be so popular, is we like to talk about pets. And that might sound kind of trivial to some people, but this is a huge industry. This $60 billion a year just keeps growing and growing. Looked up this statistic. In 1970, we had 70 million kids. In other words, people under age 18 in the United States. We had 67 pet cats and dogs. Fast forward to 2013, we have almost just about a little bit few more kids, but now we have 164 million pets. So I think you can kind of see why that category is growing. I think what also is behind that is that you have a lot of baby boomers that are becoming empty nesters. And when the last child leaves home, the first thing they do is they go out and they adopt a dog to kind of fill that emotional space that they're missing. So this isn't on your sheet, but I just wanted to talk about this for a minute. Rental amenities are going to the dogs. Developers are attracting dog owner residents by rolling out dog-friendly amenities, including indoor potty spots, spa-style dog washes with walk-up ramps, grooming stations, heated runs, pet-minded concierge services. I remember when, maybe 20 or 30 years ago, whenever I was out there looking for my first apartment, I had a cat, and I didn't tell anybody because you weren't allowed to have any kind of pets in apartments back then. And now they actually advertise how pet friendly they are. Apparently the American Pet Products Association had their convention this month, and they had 3,000 new products at their show. And I'm not going to go through all these. You can imagine how elaborate some of these products are, but this kind of caught my eye. Trolling the aisles with Lauren Darr, founder of the International Association of Pet Fashion Professionals. There's actually an association now of pet fashion professionals. So, all right. So back to the presentation here. Another stat I found kind of amusing. According to the Veterinarian Association, 58% of cats are overweight, but 45% of their owners don't believe that their cat is overweight. And it's about the same for dogs. A lot of these new products are aimed at older pets, including vitamins, supplements, mobility products, health insurance. Some vets even do house calls now, plastic surgery, believe it or not, and hospice care, all for pets. So that's a trend that just keeps growing, keeps purring along. I think I said, yeah. Well, I hope all of you have a chance to visit the Short North sometime this year. Of course, we have all the great restaurants and bars and everything, but also have some pretty cool retailers. And one category that the Short North is kind of known for is what I call retro retail. You have store called Big Fun that just opened, and these guys carry they call themselves kitschy toy archaeologists, and they carry toys that you'll remember that you had back in the 70s or the 80s, like these GI Joe army men that they're shown in the picture. I mean, you'll just have a wonderful time just browsing through that store. Another one is Homage. They've been very successful in putting together throwback team apparel. Again, capitalizing on that nostalgia, the old logos, old team logos and uniforms and that kind of thing. Another one is Flower Child. It's like walking into the set of Mad Men. They have all these clothes and furnishings from the 60s and 70s. And the one that most recently opened, it's called Kingmakers, and it's a place that it's mainly young people that go and they play board games. Um, Imagine that, and they actually leave their basements. Um, then the last trend I wanted to hit on under the broader popular culture is luxury spending. It seems to be on the rise this year. Michael Kors leading the pack, had 51% growth last year. Pretty amazing. I'm going to talk a little bit more about outlet stores here in a second. They're kind of tapping into the same thing, I think. The new priests, you now have personal trainers that are paid to listen and to coach you. And that's another service. That's a service category that I think it grew something like 40% last year. Then I've been noticing a lot of these places popping up all over Columbus, and they call them gastropubs, and it's kind of a upscaling of kind of your traditional pubs. I mean, they carry a lot of craft beers and a lot of different wines, and they also offer upscale gourmet food, including $15 hamburgers. Okay, retail therapy. Central Ohio shoppers are in for a bounty of bargains, and if you'll remember from last year, I talked about there were 4 outlet projects that were being proposed for the Columbus market. Well, one of them is definitely going to go forward, and that's going to be the Simon Mall at 3637 exit. It prevailed in a referendum. I think it was last fall. So, but the thing is about these outlet stores, it's a successful formula. Outlet sales have been growing 6% a year since 2009 versus 3% for mall retail. But the thing is, these are not your mom's outlet store. Most of these brands are carrying lesser quality knockoffs that are made just for the outlets. So, like it might have a little bit fewer buttons, or it might be made of a thinner material, but it still has the same brand name or the same style. It's just it's a knockoff basically of their own brand. So I just find that interesting. Here locally. I had made some comments about how a lot of retailers were getting into outlets, and Mr. Wexner, who's the CEO of Victoria's Secret, he said he'll never do outlets. And he said that would be like cutting your own throat because brand prestige is so important for them. So I don't think it's really the answer for everybody, and I still don't know that it really is going to have a lasting effect. Also, up there at 3637, Nationwide and Robert Weiler are in control of about 435 acres, and I expect that to go big box, which is, I think, unfortunate because all it's going to do is cannibalize all the big box stores at Polaris, which is only about 5 or 6 miles away at the next exit. Now, I talked about the outlet stores, but there's another type of I guess you would say discount operator, and that's called off price, and that's where retailers open their off price or open a discount operation. And what they do is they'll take the goods that didn't sell from last season and put them on sale for 40 to 60% off, and it's going to be from all the different brands that Nordstrom and Saks buy from. So to me, that's the true outlet. That's what people are looking for, not this knockoff stuff. And we're going to get 3 of those this year. We're going to get 2 racks, and Saks is going to open it at Houston. In fact, I think Saks is also going to open on Sawmill. So both of those are going to open 2 stores this year. Personally, I think they're the better deal than the traditional outlet centers. All right, down to number 4 here. This is a topic that I've always wanted to kind of take a look at, because the college market. I mean, we have just a ton of colleges in Ohio and a ton of college students. And what kind of caught my eye, our local chamber of commerce one day put out a report, and I didn't realize this, but we have 21 campuses right here in Central Ohio that have over 140,000 students total. I mean, in each of these campuses, they have at least 1,000 students. You kind of think of Ohio State, and they do account for about 55,000 of those students, but that's only 40%. So the college market is a huge market in Central Ohio, and I think it is a sizable market in many of your downtowns. Contrary to popular belief, college students don't shop entirely online. They only spend about 22% of their retail dollars for online purchases. They don't go out to eat every night. It's more like taco night instead of Taco Bell. Twice as much is spent on grocery than restaurants. The kid with the bad cough. Interesting, just about any mall retailer, including Abercrombie & Fitch, that targets teenagers and young adults did very poorly this last year. Abercrombie & Fitch had a 6% decrease in sales and a 77% decrease in net income, which tells me that even to get to the 6% decrease, that they had to mark down a lot of merchandise to even get that amount of sales. And one person made a good point. He said, for today's teenager, their most important purchase is their phone. Second might be their sneakers, and then third would be jeans and other clothing. Big part of this $450 million in retail spending power is the back to college market, back to school. And most of that obviously is going to occur in August and September. And what studies have shown is that there have been increases in recent years on spending for apartment and dorm furniture and appliances and electronics. And I think that kind of makes sense, especially, if you look at the bedrooms of teenagers and kids growing up today. I remember I shared bunk beds in a tiny room with my brother growing up, but these kids nowadays, boy, they got TVs and computers and all kinds of things in their bedrooms. So they expect to have those kind of amenities when they go to college. Another thing, obviously, with all these devices that they're spending a lot more money on is digital services to keep their devices running. Pop-up concepts. When you're talking about having a season that's so short, pop-ups make a lot of sense. Target has a concept where they take a dorm room, they outfit it with all Target stuff, and then if you want to purchase any of that, you can scan it with your phone, and it'll tell you what the product is, and you can buy it online. Bed Bath and Beyond also tapping into that dorm room furniture market. Staples, obviously, with school supplies. JanSport does pop-up store with its backpacks. But look who else is getting into college retailing. Walmart. They've opened about 3 of these so far. Walmart does very well with back to college, and it got them to thinking, well, why don't we just break that out as its own store? And actually, they want to actually get onto these college campuses, or at least near them. The ones that they've opened so far are about 5,000 square feet. they don't try to carry everything that Walmart does. And obviously, you couldn't at 5,000 square feet, but what they do emphasize are the drug and health and beauty aids and other convenience type items. Do they offer, are they going to take business from the campus bookstore? Well, they probably will when it comes to school supplies, but they're not going to get into textbooks. Textbooks, that's a really complicated business, and I think it's getting even more complicated with the advent of e-books and tablets. So I don't think we're even going to have physical textbooks in a few years. And I think Walmart is probably wise to leave that to others. All right, now we're up to the what's hot, what's not sector spotlight. What's hot? Jackbooted sorority girls. Doc Martens is going to open a store across from Ohio State. I always wonder why more fashion retailers don't do that. What's not? Slack-jawed hot dog vendors. When you hear food truck, that's what I used to think of is hot dogs or maybe tacos or something very very kind of simple. But nowadays, some of our food trucks they sell things like short rib empanadas, Vietnamese spring rolls, Jewish comfort food, whatever that is. But they've gone way beyond the hot dogs and tacos of the past. Okay, what's hot? Poppin' tags. If you've heard that Macklemore and Lewis, they're a huge hit that extols the virtues of thrift shopping. 17% of Americans shopped at a thrift store last year. Only 11% shopped at an outlet store. And we're also seeing more of these thrift shops pop up in the suburbs, and a lot of them are going more upscale. Okay, this next one, and this is a true story, poo print bags. There's a service in Chicago that they sell the collection kits for $40, and if you want to bust your neighbor's dog for pooping in your yard, you can collect this, send it to them, and it costs $75 for them to test to prove that this dog that's not your dog, that's somebody else's dog. The Ohio Territory is still available if anybody's interested. But seriously, though, I think that's really aimed at the apartment market because they do have to have the dog's DNA on file. Apparently, these apartment complexes require that. So there is a problem. They can identify which of the dogs is the culprit. Okay, what's hot? Self-gifting. 6 out of 10 holiday shoppers picked out that perfect present, that perfect person, or that favorite person. But what's not? Shoplifting. It's not really the same as self-gifting. And according to statistics, over 1 million Ohioans have shoplifted at least once in their lives, but only 10% actually have been arrested for shoplifting. And a little trivia fact of the day, meat is the most often shoplifted item. Okay, moving on here. What's hot? Plus size mannequins. Silent floor models add thicker waists, sagging torsos, and even tattoos in an effort to become more realistic. And I think that's something that has been part of marketing for a while. Is using regular people in the ads and that kind of thing. But as I was kind of preparing to do this webinar today, I went back and I looked at the article, and somehow I missed the sentence. And I'm not saying this. This is from the article. What is this from? This is from Business Time magazine. But here, I'm going to read this. The mannequins at American Apparel's downtown New York City store have pubic hair peeking through their lingerie. Now, I don't know about you, but that's getting a little too realistic for me. Okay, what's not? Disappearing sales clerks. We're losing about 2,500 retail jobs each year in Central Ohio, and I think that might change, and I'll tell you more about that in a while. But it does seem kind of ironic to me that we're adding these mannequins and subtracting actual human beings that could help you in the aisles. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, what's hot? Reality show hits. Um, A&E's Duck Dynasty merchandise is now sold in 15 different Walmart departments. It includes DVDs, clothing, action figures. You can even buy Duck Dynasty red wine. Uh, it's about $400 million a year business, which would, if Duck Dynasty was a retailer, they would be one of the biggest retailers in the country. What's not? Gilly Hicks. A&F's Down Under concept, complete with a phony backstory, didn't make it. After after opening to some great fanfare, I was reading some of the old articles from 09 and 2010 when they first started this lingerie concept, and they were predicting big things for it. And here, 3 or 4 years later, they've closed down every unit that was left. Okay, so we're done with what's hot, what's not. Moving on. Let's go programming. Hold on a second. Okay. Okay, I can't seem to find my notes, so I'm going to just wing it here. Okay, let's go Kroger. Cincinnati Stalwart stands tall after absorbing a frontal assault from Walmart. Um, I thought that was really significant because I remember when Walmart got into the grocery business, there were a lot of predictions that traditional grocery stores were going to go away. And instead, Kroger has just been stronger than ever. They've had, I have 40 quarters of same store revenue growth here. Actually, it's 41 now. And I think that's pretty amazing. Those are same store growth. So this is not growth through going out and buying somebody or whatever. This is same store growth. I don't think there's really any other retailer I can think of that has had that kind of performance. They're now the second largest retailer in the country. They've been buying regional chains all over the country to increase their scale so that they can reduce costs and keep up with Walmart. But I think that the really smart thing that they've done is they're keeping the local banners, the local names of the stores. I recall when Macy's kind of did a similar thing, 10 or 15 years ago. And I thought that they made a huge mistake by buying up iconic brands like Lazarus and Kaufman's and Riches and other local department stores that had over 100 years of history in their respective markets. And they came in and made them all Macy's. And I just thought that was a terrible mistake. And I'm glad to see Kroger's not making that same mistake. Another initiative that has kept Kroger competitive. Not only are they, competing at the lower end against Walmart, but they've had these upscale rivals like Whole Foods and others that have kind of pushed them on the quality side. So they've kept up with remodels, have improved their food quality, and expanded their products and services. And then another way that they've stayed competitive is they've renegotiated some of their contracts with the unions to significantly cut down on their warehousing and transportation outlays. This next point is a really important one. Simple Truth. That's the name of the private label for a lot of their products go under Simple Truth, and that's been a really successful program for them. Actually, Kroger, though, they do carry it's kind of a three-tiered portfolio. They have the low end, the no frills, very generic brands. Then they have kind of national brand knockoff or substitute. Then they have the higher end or organic and gourmet platforms. And that Simple Truth is the organic and gourmet lines of products that have been super successful for them. And one of the reasons, not only does private label differentiate Kroger from other retailers, but from a margin standpoint, they manufacture 40% of those goods in-house. Kroger is actually one of the biggest manufacturers in the United States that people don't think about. They think about them as being a retailer, but they run 37 plants. Um, and these store brands account for 25% of the sales for Kroger, and these are at a much higher margin than the rest of the grocery products. So that's been a real important part of their success. The other reason I wanted to talk about Kroger this year is I really respect them. They're not resting on their laurels. They're continuously innovating. And one of the things that they've accomplished recently is they call them snowflakes. And they send out 11 million coupon packets each quarter. And each of the packets is uniquely personalized towards you and what your past purchases have indicated. And so about 80% of the coupons are going to be for things that you purchased in the past that they know from the records. The other 20% are going to be what they call discovery, things that they think you might like based on your past purchases. And I don't think anybody is doing that quite at the level that Kroger is. Another thing they were experimenting with in Cincinnati, where they're headquartered, a program called Scan, Bag, and Go. And what you do is when you come in the store, you pick up a handheld scanner, and then you scan products as you put them into your grocery cart. And when you get to the end, you just put them in the bag and pay and go. Everything's is already been added up for you, so it saves the consumer a lot of time. Another thing that they're going to roll out, and I've noticed that Walmart is doing something similar. I believe Target is too. I call them tweeners. They're a lot bigger than a convenience store. Most convenience stores are about 3,000 square feet. These are going to be about 7,500 square feet. A full line Kroger's would be about 60,000 square feet. So these stores, they're going to offer more products than you would see at a convenience store, but they're also going to offer those products at grocery store prices, not convenience store prices. So I think I'll be interested to see if this works, but I think that second part might be part of why it does work is if they can get the prices lower than what you would have to pay at your local 7-Eleven. I think a lot of people would do it. Okay, now we're up to number one. That's logistics. I remember when I first got into retail consulting back in the late '80s. Everybody was talking about Walmart. I also remember the first time I went into a Walmart store was in Topeka, Kansas, and I was very underwhelmed. It was kind of a dark, dirty store, and I'm like, wow, this is what everybody's talking about. But as I got more experience and more into the industry, I found out that Walmart stores are not. That's not what makes Walmart great. What makes Walmart a very profitable company are their logistics and distribution, all the things that you don't see, all the stuff behind the scene. And everybody else has been trying to catch up ever since. Now, of course, we have a new guy out there. I don't know if we should call him Son of Sam or not. It probably wouldn't be very nice. But Jeff Bezos at Amazon, and they're looking at they've kind of taken this whole thing apart, and they're looking at a much different way of doing things. And the reason is because you have a different challenge now, different onus. It's not the blocking and tackling, the kind of things that Walmart has mastered, the bulk distribution. It's kind of almost the opposite. How do you process, pick, package, and deliver millions and millions of small orders to millions and millions of addresses? And what they're finding is that they're going to need some new facilities, new types of facilities. And here are some examples of different of new types of facilities that serve e-commerce. You have Mega fulfillment centers. These are stock and pick facilities with at least 500,000 square feet, high bay, and cross-dock configurations, um, in a sorting facility. So that's kind of like your old distribution centers, only they're aimed more at fulfillment. We're also going to have parcel hubs, sortation centers with a high length to width ratio, low site density, extensive truck loading capacity, and automated internal systems. And these are going to be located right in the center of as many cities as possible. Local delivery centers, these are people that are going to take it the last mile, the product from the dock to the doorstep. You have return processing centers. That's going to be a whole new class of distribution real estate, the centers that do nothing but process returns. And then I'll probably be talking about this as one of the trends for next year. But a lot of the big retailers are looking into doing full food fulfillment. There have been some spectacular failures in this category in the past, but both Amazon and Walmart are playing around with online food delivery services. So that's going to create, I think, some opportunities for new types of real estate. In fact, here in the Columbus market, the industrial vacancy rate dropped from 12% last year to is currently about 6%. And most of that space is being taken for distribution. Another big part of the omni-channel strategies, by the way, you're going to hear that word a lot, omni-channel, is ship from store. And what that means is customers want to be able to buy online, pick up in the store, buy online and return in the store, buy online, ship from the store to their home, see something in the store and buy it online, or ship from one store to another. So we're looking at stores a lot differently. And in fact, Sears and a lot of others are actually fulfilling orders at their stores now. And I think that's a trend that is really we're going to see a lot of increase in. For instance, Gap was comparing themselves to Amazon, and the CEO at Gap said, you know what, we have 2,500 distribution centers. And what he meant was all the Gap stores across the United States. So I think you're going to see some traditional retailers trying to turn that into an advantage. Mommy, the drone's here. I don't know if we're going to be hearing that in 3 or 4 years or not. But I guess the overall point is Amazon is really pushing the envelope on delivery. I think they have a lot of things to work out with the drones. I don't think we're going to be seeing those in 2014. But they are trying to improve on a number of fronts. They're still working on same-day delivery in several markets. Sunday delivery. I thought this was a terrific idea. Amazon has signed a deal with the United States Postal Service, which obviously doesn't deliver on Sunday, but they signed a deal to use their drivers and fleet on Sundays, just for Amazon. So it's kind of win-win. Certainly, Postal Service needs the revenues. This next thing, this is almost kind of creepy. Anticipatory shipping. Amazon has patented a technique that prepares items to ship before they're actually ordered. So Amazon has put together these algorithms where they know what you're going to want to buy before you know it. And I don't mean that on a personal level necessarily, but on an aggregate level, they've come up with these forecasting models that are pretty accurate. So what they're doing is they're going to ship these products ahead of time so that when you do actually order them, you can get them that much quicker. Not for the robophobic. I was reading where that's actually going to become a word in our language here pretty soon as robotics spread to different applications. So Jeff Bezos, he's talking about these unmanned octocopters. They'll be able to deliver a 5-pound package within 30 minutes, within a radius of 10 miles. It's pretty futuristic stuff. You know, I wouldn't want to be walking down the street while one of those things was buzzing over my head. But like I say, they have some things to work out there. And as long as we're talking about Amazon, yes, they are known for their logistics, but they're doing some real innovative things on a lot of other fronts. Their latest thing this past December, they changed prices 2.5 million times a day on their website for all their products. And again, they have this built-in algorithm that if they find out somebody else is selling something lower at a lower price than they are, it can go in and automatically change the price. And just to kind of put that in perspective, 1 year ago, in other words, December 2012, they only did 270,000 price changes a day. Now it's 2.5 million. Walmart only does 50,000 a day. So that's something. That's another technology that Amazon is way ahead of the game on. It's interesting to see that they not only Amazon but some of the other online retailers have kind of experimented with pop-up stores, and the ones for Amazon seems like the primary thing that they were trying to do there was to sell their Kindle ebook reader devices because Walmart and Target stopped carrying them. They said they didn't want to help the competitor. I don't really blame them. So Amazon they felt like they needed another retail outlet for, especially for people to play with the devices before they use them. Then this last thing, the Prime Amazon program has been extremely popular. When it came out within 06, they had 1 million subscribers. Today they have 25 million. And basically what it is you pay $79 a year to belong to this club. And it has several benefits, but the key one is that you get free 2-day shipping from anywhere in the United States. Well, Amazon, for as successful as they are as a company, believe it or not, they actually lose money and have lost money for many years. So they're getting a lot of pressure from their investors to say, hey, when are we going to start making a profit? So finally, they gave in this year, and they decided to raise the price from $79 to $99. It's the first time they've increased in 9 years, and of course, fuel costs have gone up a lot during that time. So I mean, I think it's totally justified, and I think that most people will pay it without blinking an eye. But you're always going to have some people that they're going to lose a few subscribers. But it's like my partner Deb Miller was telling me yesterday. Her niece, who was in Kansas, had a birthday last week, and Deb got on Amazon, picked out a gift. They also offer birthday cards. She picked out a birthday card and sent it. She was done in 5 minutes. And she told me that story, and I'm the retailing consultant who hates to shop. And I'm like, wow, I got to learn how to do that. So anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I guess I'll take any of your questions now. Huh?
All right. If anybody has any questions right now, please feel free to enter those in. All right. Doesn't look like there's any questions. You must have covered everything.
I can't find that hard, please.
All right. Well, seeing no questions, thanks again so much, Chris, for coming in today. Oh, it looks like we did have one pop up.
Yeah.
Question is, are there any retail trends specifically for small towns?
Well, I think what I alluded to at the beginning. First of all, I did not write this specifically with small town retailers in mind, independent retailers. I have covered that pretty extensively in the past, but didn't really hit that too hard this year. I'm sorry. But I will repeat what I said in the beginning. I think it's really, really important for anybody that's going to open or continue to operate a retail business to become internet savvy and e-commerce savvy. And I think in a way it can be a great equalizer because smaller towns, by definition, have a limited market, and especially if you want to get into some niche category, there probably aren't going to be enough people that live in your county to support that. So you're going to have to find a way to find more customers outside of your local market.
Right. Doesn't appear. Oh, another one popped up. Are there any trends to reward small brick and mortar stores when consumers go to window shop and then order online because the manufacturer sells it cheaper online?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, the chains are really fighting that. What they're doing is they're calling it price matching, and basically, if you go in and as you say, window shop, and you take out your phone and you find it somewhere cheaper, most of the chains nowadays will match you on that. And in fact, some of them already have a list ready, uh, before you even come up to the counter to ask for a discount. And they know which stores, well, they have a list that they approve. And that really varies quite a bit from retailer to retailer. I know Walmart just came out with something that they call something to do with price differentials. And if you find something cheaper on sale, they'll give you the difference, but they won't actually give you the cash. They give you like a gift card for Walmart that has the difference, the amount of the difference, and of course they're hoping that you're going to come back and spend a lot more than whatever the 37 cents or whatever it was that they're going to give you a credit for.
Right. Most small stores can't even buy it for the price online. So to do that, they would have to take a hit.
I think that kind of reinforces why they have to be online themselves, because otherwise that's really, I think, the biggest competitive threat right now to small retailers is online retail. It's not Walmart anymore.
I've seen that the business plan competitions and other grant funded initiatives have had success in several communities. Are there other strategies that can bolster local retail?
Well, I talked about it a couple times during this presentation, but I think that pop-up stores in the food category, food trucks, I think that those are valid things to look at, because you don't have that huge investment up front. In other words, the entrepreneur can kind of dip their toe in the water, before plunging in. So I think that's been, I've seen that very successful in different places.
Okay. Well, that does seem to be the end of the questions. Again, want to thank Chris with Boulevard Strategies for coming by today and doing another webinar here for us. I want to thank you all for attending today. I want to thank you all for attending today. Appreciate your being here. And as mentioned before, we do love membership so that you can enjoy our other webinars that are coming down the road. And finally, it looks like we actually do have one last question. Speaking of food trucks, do these help or hinder the development of local restaurant scene?
Yeah, that's a pretty controversial issue in a lot of the cities. And I think where policymakers are starting to kind of come down is that they're they're allowing food trucks to go into certain zones that don't have full service restaurants. the other thing is, I think sometimes we make a little bit too much of that. I, 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 I mean, I don't know how many people were going to compare the experience of going to a food truck to going to a nice restaurant, with waiter service. I mean, it's a totally different experience. And in fact, I think probably the food trucks hurt the kind of food businesses that serve over the counter more than they hurt the full service restaurants.
All right. Well, we'll try this again, and then we are out of time. So again, thanks everybody for attending. Thanks, Chris, for making the presentation, and we'll hope to see you on our next webinar next month. Thank you very much.